Hello and welcome back to Strategic Investor Radio, and we're here at the 4th Annual AltsLA Conference in Los Angeles. We're very pleased you've joined us, and we have here Bill Kelly, the Chief Executive Officer of CAIA, of the Chartered Alternative Investment Analysts Association out of Boston. Bill, welcome to the conference.
Thank you, Charlie. Always a pleasure. I think you've been at all four of these as well as I have.
Well, it's always a pleasure to come here, and it's right down the road for me. I'm much closer than Boston, but I think last time you and I were talking, you were headed to Japan or China or somewhere, so it's much closer than all of that. So, Bill, what are you doing here at the conference? I know you're chairing some panels and different things like that.
Well, it's every year it gets bigger and better. We have 800 people here, up from 600 last year. The folks that we organize this with, the CAIA chapter here in Los Angeles, CFA Society of Los Angeles, and CalAlts, they're talking about 1,000 people for next year. So, but it's not about the people, it's about the content in the room. I moderated a panel on the future of hedge funds for 2018. And I began it by saying, as a long-term investor, it seems odd I'm talking about the future of hedge funds for 1 year. I thought we were long-term investors. But that's the market cycle we've been in, this risk-on trade that's been out there. If you were long equities for the last 10 years, you did quite well. I think that we're going to start to see a little bit of a regression to the mean, and our value proposition is around alternative investment education for these alternative risk premia, and I think our day in the sun is right ahead of us.
Well, no question about it, Bill. You know, this is not a conference, and many people would say it's not a time to invest for people to be looking at Vanguard index funds. And this room has a plethora of ideas and innovation on how to approach things. What have you found this year that has been especially interesting? Because I know you've come to each of the four of these conferences.
Well, I think that one of the things I brought up again in the panel, and this has come up several times today, is one of the knocks on the alternative strategies over the last several years has been lack of volatility and low interest rates. Groundhog's Day, the groundhog came out, and what scared him back into the hole was volatility. That came roaring back on February 2nd. Interest rates went up, and hedge funds had been 13 for 13 in terms of up months through January of 16 January of 17 through January of 18. In February, most of them got scorched because the volatility came all at once in a very rapid way. And again, I think a lot of mainstream media threw the hedge fund space under the bus for that, when 1 month or 1 day does not a market cycle make. And I think if you're seeing this volatility come back as an equity holder, fixed income, the 35-year bull market is done. And the correlation between equity and fixed income is going to be much closer to 1. So if you're thinking about diversification, you've got to go outside of those two asset classes. And the only place to go from there is alternatives. But you got to think about it as a risk mitigation, volatility mitigating vehicle as opposed to a return enhancer.
Got it. So Bill, CAIA, tell us briefly about CAIA.
So CAIA is 15 years old. It's we've got 6,000 people sit for the exam, 9,000 members in 90 different countries. It's growing despite the aforementioned challenges in the market. The educational mission has never been more important. So this is what we do 24/7.
Great to hear. Well, Bill, thank you very much again for contributing to the conference and spending a few minutes with us here today.
Always a pleasure seeing you, Charlie. Thank you.
Again, we've been talking with Bill Kelly, Chief Executive Officer of CAIA. You're listening to Strategic Investor Radio here at the AltsLA 4th Annual Conference, and we'll be right back.